This conference will now be recorded.
Morning, guys. Today we are conducting 19c Data Guard Administration Workshop. So, what this course gives you, if you are a DBA, so you know the DBA activities, but in Data Guard, you are new. So, when you do this workshop, so you will get familiar with the Data Guard capabilities. You would be able to understand how data guard works, and you will be able to install configuration and managing data guard, and you will be able to fix real-time issues. So why we do this course, because it gives you weightage to your profile. It helps you to stand ahead among the DBAs, and data guard is always in market demand because these days high availability required uh, in client environment. And for my introduction, I am expertise certified trainer, and I'm giving training from almost 25 years as a mentor. I do corporate training, online training, offline training, and I'm working as a DBA from last 14 plus years. So I have more than 100 batches delivered. And for lab, we basically help you in creating a lab in your laptop or desktop, whatever you have. And every sessions will be recorded, and every session PDF will be uploaded, and recording also uploaded to the Google Drive. From there you can watch it and read it, the documents, and all documents are up to date, and it is related to data guard 19c. And for topic which I will cover, so there are 24 topics. These are the main headings, and in that we have sub topics also, but I didn't mention here. And the first topic I will cover how to install the VirtualBox, and what after that we will see how to create the virtual machine. And before installing Oracle Enterprise Linux 7.5, we do modification in VirtualBox, so that we will see. And after that we will install Oracle 17 point installation on virtual machine. And after that we will see Linux basic command which is required for the DBA, so we should know those both basic Linux command. So we will see, so all the things are practicals. So my main focus is practicals, less theory, more practical. And after that we will do Oracle server installation, where we install the 19c software binaries in Oracle home. And after that we will do the database creation through DBCA, that is the graphical tool and which is recommended. And in terms of data guard, we do the introduction of the data guard. And in the introduction we will see about the data guard, what is data guard, types of standby, types of data guard services, role transitions means switchover and failover, then Oracle data guard broker, and what are the interface to administering a data guard configuration, then Oracle data guard architecture, then what are the primary database processes, what are the standby database processes, physical standby, what is redo apply in the architecture, in that logical standby, what is SQL apply architecture, then automatic gap detection and resolution, and data protection mode. So we have three protection mode we will see. And what are the hardware and operating system requirement for data guard, what is the Oracle database software, and benefited of implementing data guard. And Oracle second, after that we will see data guard basic, and then net services in data guard. So we will see the how to configure net services in data guard environment, what is the name resolution, what are local naming connection files, what is listener configuration files, that is listener.order, what is dynamic service registration, what is static listener entries. So these are the things we will discuss over in this topic. And physical standby database creation. So what are the steps to create a physical standby? How to prepare the primary database? What is force logging mode? What is database no logging enhancement? How to configure redo log? How to use standby redo log? What is how to use SQL to create a standby redo log, how to view the standby redo logs, setting initialization parameter on the primary database to control redo transport, setting log archive config parameter, log archive dest n parameter, combination for valid underscore for attributes, and specifying initialization parameter on the setting initialization parameter on primary database like db file name convert standby file management and file server. So these are the things we will see in that. And after that, managing physical standby. So these are the scenario based topic where if we are adding a data file or creating a table, so what are action required on physical standby? If we are using transportable space with a physical standby, so what actions required on physical standby? And if suppose we are renaming a data file in the primary database side, so what actions required on physical standby? If we adding or dropping a redo log, so what actions required on physical standby? And no logging or unrecoverable operations we are performing, so what actions are required? So these are the scenarios we will discuss over there. Then snapshot standby database creation. So in that we will see what is a snapshot standby, what is the architecture, and converting a physical standby database to a standby snapshot database, and activating a snapshot standby database. What are the issues and cautions, and what is target restriction? How to view standby database information, and snapshot standby space requirement. So these are the things we will discuss in that. And managing snapshot standby database. So how to manage standby database configuration, so we will see in this topic. And monitoring data guard configuration, so we will see how to monitor the data guard. What are the views we need to check for redo archiving, redo transporting, and database syncing with the standby, like that. And monitoring, create Oracle data guard broker overview. So in that we will see what is data guard broker features, what are the components and configurations, what is the architecture, what is the process, and what is the benefit of data guard broker. And creating a data guard broker configuration, so we will see what are the parameters we need to configure, what are the log files, what is the redo transport network location, how to connect primary database with the DGMGRL, that is the tool by that we manage data guard broker configuration. And monitoring data guard broker configuration, in that we will monitor by the views, monitor by the log files, and view related to data guard diagnostic information, and then some command line tool to monitor, like show configuration DG MGRL, show database verbose DG MGRL, validate database SP file, validate database data file, validate network configuration. So these are the new command: validate static connector identifier, set echo, show all, and view related to standby redo log information, that is v dollar log file, v dollar standby underscore log, v dollar log v dollar archive underscore dest, v dollar data guard underscore stats, and v dollar data guard underscore process, v dollar logs td by underscore transaction. So these are the views, we see that, and configuring data protection mode. So in that we have maximum protection mode, maximum availability mode, maximum performance mode, how to set that by using SQL. So these are the things we will cover in this topic. And then role transition, switch over and failover. So in that we will see what is the switchover, what happens before the switchover, what happened after the switchover, how to perform switchover by SQL prompt, by DDMGRL prompt, and what is the failover, types of failover. So what are the consideration we need to do in failover. So these are the things we will cover. And flashback database in data guard environment. So we will see what is the flashback database, how to configure flashback database, how to configure flashback database by SQL prompt, by SQL tool. And these are the points we will see in this. And the backup recovery part in the data guard. So how to use rman to backup and restore file in data guard environment, and offloading backups, and backup and recovery of physical standby, setting configuration of rman, setting configuration rman parameter on primary database or in standby and on other database actually, and enable blockchain tracking on physical standby, configure daily incremental backup, and recovery the loss of data file on the primary database using a backup to recover a data file on the primary database, restoring and recovering a data file on the primary database over the network. So these are the recovery related things we will discuss. And then troubleshooting data guard issues. So there are many data guard issues in that. So we will see in this topic. Okay. So let's move to my slide. Just give me a moment. Okay, so I hope my slide is visible to you guys. So in data guard workshop, so first thing is, what is Oracle Data Guard? So can anyone tell me what is Oracle Data Guard, if you know? Okay, no issues. So data guard actually a management, or you can say monitoring and automation software infrastructure that works with the production database, where you can create one or more standby to protect your data against failures, any errors, any corruptions that might destroy your production database. So basically it protects critical data. So data guard basically a copy of an Oracle production database, we called as a standby database, and that can be used if the production database is suppose taken offline due to routine maintenance, or maybe damage of your production. So then you can use this standby database as a production, and meanwhile you can recover your damaged production database. So production database is referred as a primary database in data guard configuration, and data guard configuration is standby database is basically a synchronized copy of the primary database. How you will create? By using a backup copy of the primary database. And how many data guard or standby you can configure? You can configure up to 1 to 30. and your production database, standby database will make a data guard configuration. Okay, so this is data guard, and in the diagram you can see that there is a primary database, there is a Oracle network which connect primary database and standby, and then it transfer the redo data to the standby side, so that your standby side become sync or equal as primary database state. Okay, now types of standby database. So we have three standby databases. One is physical and logical. Then after that, another new feature comes, which is snapshot standby database. And first, what is physical standby? Physical standby is basically identical to the primary database, and that is block for block basis. It's identical, and it is synchronized with primary database through the redo data, which transfer from the primary database side to the standby, and in standby side it will receive and then it will apply. And Oracle Database 12c enables a physical standby database to receive and apply redo while it is open in read-only mode. So that is the plus advantage and better advantage of DataGuard from 12c. Excuse me. And logical standby database basically share the schema logical operations information, sorry, and it is not block to block similar, and it is not based on block to block basis. And logical standby database is synchronized with the primary database by applying the SQL statement. So actually SQL statement will not transfer from the primary database to the logical standby. Actually redo data will transfer from production of primary database to the logical standby, and after that log miner technology is the utility which transfer the redo data into SQL statement, and then it will execute the SQL statement on the standby database, and then it will sync with the primary database or production database. And the table in a logical standby database can be used for recovery, for reporting, for queries, etc. So basically log miner is analyze redo log files, and then it will do the things. And the third database is snapshot standby database. So snapshot standby database is a database that we will create by converting a physical standby database actually. So if you don't have physical standby, then you cannot make snapshot standby. So the condition is that first you should have physical standby, then you will convert this physical standby to snapshot standby database, and it receives the redo data from the database but does not apply the redo data until it is converted back into a physical standby database. So we cannot open snapshot standby database for longer period, because redo will coming and storing and it will not applying. So when you will convert back to the physical standby, then all the redo which we received will apply simultaneously one by one. So it will take too much time uh, with the synchronization or to the stamp production side. Okay, so that's why DBA should maintain this time difference to open and roll back the physical standby to snapshot database. Now, what are the types of data guard services? So data guard basically provide three types of services. One is redo transport services, where redo will transfer from production to from primary database to standby. And apply services basically apply the redo which received And if it is a physical standby, it will apply directly from the redo. And if it is not physical, if it is logical, then it will convert the redo statement into SQL statement. Then those SQL statements are executed on the logical standby database. Then it will be synced with the primary database. And third services is role management, where we have two roles. One is switch over, one is failover. So switch over we do in plan activity, and failover can be happen anytime. So these we will discuss later. Now, next thing is role transition. In that, where is switchover and failover options we have. So switchover basically switch the role of primary database to standby. Suppose I need to check whether my standby database can become production or not. So for that, we involve all the teams of my environment, like application team, storage team, network team, operating system team, and DBA team. So basically DBA will do this activity switchover, and generally it will do he will do in morning hours or late night, after 2 p.m. to between 2 p.m. to 5 a.m. between. There is no load on that, no less transaction on your database, so that you can. So in that we make production as a standby and standby as a production. So this is the switchover activity. We do that, and in my last organization I do frequently to check my databases. And failover operations happen when failure occur on the primary database. And in failover operation, the failed primary database is removed from the data guard environment, and the existing standby database assume as a primary database role. So we DBA basically invoke that and make it as a primary database, and then meanwhile it will he will recover the failed primary database, and then he can make as a standby, or he can make as a production also, for this in this operation. Now come to architecture part of data guard. So here you can see that there are primary database and standby, and in that we have many processes. So, and in that we all are connected through network, and we have this architecture. And when we go for primary database processes, so these are the processes we have. So first, a log writer, we know that. Then archiver, we know that. And after that, two important process which is used on primary side, that is NSSN, that is network server sync process, and there is a TTNN, that is redo transport slave processes. Okay, so these two processes basically transfer my redo data to the standby. So when we are using synchronous standby database, then LGWR passes the redo to my NSS process, which ships the redo directly to the remote file server process, which reside on the standby. And then LGWR wait for the confirmations from the NSS process before doing the commit. And there is a synchronous standby database configuration. In that, redo transport slave process, that is TTNN, read the redo from either the redo log buffer in memory or the online redo log file, and then ship the redo to its standby, and their RFS process receive it, and then it will apply. Okay, and LGWR has no interaction with any asynchronous standby database destination, and in that LGWR will not wait for the acknowledgement. It will perform when commit happen, and then LWR write the redo data into the redo log files. And archiver process basically uh, copy of the online redo log files to a separate file, that is archive redo log files. And it also shipping redo data to RFS process when there is any gap happens, and it will resolve all the gaps on all standby databases. And by default 4 archiver process will start, and maximum 30 archiver process we can configure. And standby database processes, we have I just spoke about RFS. RFS is the process which receives the redo data from primary database and can write the redo into a standby redo log or directly to archive redo log files. And each NSSN and NRCN processes from the primary database has its own RFS process. Okay, now archiver process as same as it is on the primary database side, so I'm not repeating again. An MRP process and LSP process means manage recovery process and logical standby process. MRP is related to physical standby. So MRP will apply archive redo log information to the physical standby. If you start manage recovery with the alter database recover manage standby database SQL statement, so this foreground session performs the recovery. If you use the optional disconnect from session clause, the MRP background process starts. If you use the data guard broker to manage your standby database, the broker always start the MRP background process for a physical standby database. So please remember this point. And for logical standby database, LSP enable, and LSP controls the application of archive redo log information to the logical standby. And now architecture, SQL Apply Architecture. So as we know that we have physical standby, we have logical standby. So if it is a physical standby, so production database which is linked or connected to one or more standby that are identical copy of the production database. So the limit of 30 standby database is imposed by, or you can say configured by, log underscore archive underscore dest underscore n parameter, where n is the one numbers 1 2 3 4 5, that so it is 1 to 30. But from Oracle 12c release 1, the maximum number of destination is 31. One destination is used for local archiving and other 30 destination is used for standby databases. And standby databases which is updated by the redo, that is automatically shipped from the primary database, and the redo can be shipped as it is generated or archived on the primary database. So redo is applied to each standby by using Oracle Media Recovery. And during planned downtime, you can perform a switchover to a standby database. When a failure occurs, you can perform a failover to one of the standby database. So the physical standby can also be used to back up the primary database. And automatic gap deduction. So suppose you have a network issues, connectivity is lost between the primary and standby database, then redo data is being generated on the primary database side, but it cannot be sent to the physical standby databases. Then when a connection is re-established, data guard automatically deduct that what are those missing archive redo log files, and then automatically transmit or transfer the missing archive log files to the standby database by using the ARCN process. So ARCN process will do the gapping and do the resolution. So please remember that is an interview question, which process do the automatic gapping resolution. Okay. Now data protection mode. So we had three data protection mode. One is maximum performance, maximum availability, maximum protection. Maximum performance is the default data guard mode, and in that we use asynchronous configuration where production database or its primary database will not wait for the confirmation whether redo is applied or not on the standby side. So that's why performance will improve and production database will not be wait for next transaction. And maximum production basically use the synchronous mechanism where LGWR wait for the confirmation from the standby side whether it is applied or not, and after that if suppose it is not applying, it will shut down the primary database because fault can happen from writing redo stream actually. So that is maximum protection. And maximum availability is basically transaction does not commit until the redo data to recover the transaction is returned to the online redo log file and at least one remote standby redo log. Okay. And unlike maximum protection mode, the primary database does not shut down in this case if it is not applying or something. So instead, the primary database operates in asynchronous mode until the fault is corrected and all the gaps in the redo log files are resolved. So when all the gaps are resolved, primary database is synchronized with the standby, and then primary database automatically resume operating in maximum availability mode. So this mode guaranteed that no data loss occurs if the primary database fails, but only if a second fault does not prevent a complete set of redo data from being sent from primary database to at least one standby database. And what are the hardware and operating system requirements for your data guard configuration? Oracle recommend that your hardware and primary for primary and standby should be similar, but it can be different. Like number of CPUs, memory size, and storage configuration can be similar or can be differ. An operating system for both the database and operating system binaries can be similar and can be different. So but better to go with the similar configuration. So there is a Oracle support note which you can check it, that is 413484.1 or .1. Then data guard operational requirement for your Oracle database software. So data guard comes with enterprise edition. Other editions like standard edition will not give you this facility. And if you are using data guard, in that you can use ASM, you can use OMF, you can use both. So if you are using for production primary side, you should be used for standby also. So this is the guideline. And next, what is the benefit of Oracle Data Guard? So there are so many benefits for Oracle Data Guard. So first, it will give you continuous services where you can suppose if you intentionally you are doing switchover, then you can make standby as a production. So service will not be halt, and suppose failure happens, then you can make standby as a production, then you will provide continuous service. So that is the meaning of this. And complete data protection, suppose you are losing something on production, so you had a standby database which are similar to your production, so then no data loss occur and availability will be there. And elimination of ideal standby database system means you can use a standby system for reporting and queries, and you can release the burden on production side. You can also use for backup of the database. Okay. And flexible configuration means there is a very easy way to configure the data guard system to meet your business requirement. And it is a centralized management infrastructure which control all the configuration in your enterprise. Okay, so thank you guys. This is all about data guard, and these are the ways you can connect me. And if you have any questions, then please ask.